Hi, my name is Damon Smith. Well, my name is Damon Smith. You're watching Stand Up Mag Online Magazine. I'm here with Rod Sharma, the great Rod Sharma.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Honestly, you're one of the funniest guys I've ever met.
Okay, nice. You haven't met too many people. It's good to know.
No. I'm sorry, you're the funniest Indian comedian.
Oh, okay, okay.
In the room right now.
In the room right now. Okay,
if
okay.
Paul comes in there.
Then I'll be bumped to fourth. There'll be two gaps of no one in between, so that's good.
So how'd you get started?
It's a weird, I'll say this, I don't believe in coincidence. Like, Buddhist philosophy says, if you say it out loud, the universe will conspire with you. And I've always wanted to be a comic. I mean, kids, growing up would be like, you got to get into stand-up comedy. And I just never did. I was a theater major. Then I got involved in family business with my folks. And I was dating a girl at the time who took me to the Addison Improv. And we walk in, and I see Paul Varghese, right? And I was like, oh my God, Indian comic. I've never seen anything like this before. And my brother was doing juvenile diabetes banquets every year to raise money for research. And he would always have comedians. And I said, you need to book this guy, Paul Varghese. He's brilliantly, brilliantly funny. And I'm looking out the window in my office, and I see Paul pull up. And I'm like, oh my God, you got him. And we just started talking. And about an hour and a half, I think it was almost 2.5 hours later, he's like, you should really take this stand-up workshop at the Addison Improv taught by Dean Lewis. And I knew Dean from junior college. So walk in the first day, and Dean looks at me and gives me book number 1. And so every week I had to pitch my bits first. And I went up at the end of the 8-week workshop, and the set went really well. And started getting more offers to come out for open mics, more offers to come out and do small little shows around town. And then we're standing at the Addison Improv, and Trey, the manager there, said, we've done urban nights, we've done Hispanic nights, we've done all kinds of different theme nights. What do you think about an Indian night? And I said, being arrogant and overshooting my mouth a bit, I said, we'll sell it out. And Paul looked at me and was like, shut up. You don't know what's going to happen. And July 30th was the first Indians at the Improv, and we sold out 317 people.
Wow.
So, I started my first set at the Improv for that showcase was April 14th, and July 30th of that same year, we have our own show. And then we went to Houston and sold out Houston, and we do a monthly show, and then it just kind of snowballed into everybody going and getting their own headlining shows. So,
okay, let me ask you.
This is luck. It was dumb luck. If you want to.
So we're talking 3 or 4 months. How much time did you have in 3 to 4 months?
Oh man, we were having to do. It was just stretching. Hopefully stretching. We would sit. Paul and I would sit and write just Indian-based material, because that was the majority of the people that were coming out were Indian. And over time, over the 2 years that we did it, the show completely crossed over. It just turned into more and more of a mainstream crowd. And I think the last one we did, there were only 4 Indian people in the crowd, and the rest of it was just a mainstream audience. But I think by the time we actually did the show and got done writing, I think I maybe had 10 to 12 minutes, somewhere in there. And by the time we got to Houston, I had, I think, 20, somewhere in there. So, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of writing.
Well, because it's a specific audience. Like, you can write very specific, like, if you're doing, a show for a black audience, you can do things that, specifically for that crowd, that crowd will get, like, just simple things like, things at home, or how parents are, or how you were raised, or
White folks can't make Kool-Aid for shit.
Like something like that, right? So, but I can go, you know what? Everybody has that. That uncle that drinks too much, or everybody has, I'm Punjabi, so like I know there's Punjabi people in this room right now, guaranteed brought in their own bottle of liquor, and they would go crazy because that's what we do. You know what I mean? So it was very audience specific. And then we'd have to write, which was great. Hindsight being 2020, it was great because now both Paul and I have 2 separate sets that we can do. Like, I can do a mainstream set, and then I can do a set for nothing but South Asians. So that was just a blessing in disguise.
So what's your writing process like?
It's tough, man. Sometimes I'll sit there and I'll write everything I'm thinking, and then I'll omit what I think is going to work. But then sometimes it just happens organically. My favorite is when it happens organically in conversations. Like, if I'm talking to you, like at the bar at an open mic or whatever, and we say something that's funny and it goes back and forth, if you don't want to use it, then I'll use it. If if I give you an idea and you give me a tagline, then yeah, I mean, it just works like that. Like earlier in the show today, there was a Hispanic kid that said that Batman was from Harlem, and Brian gave me a tag that said, no, he just dresses in all black. Right? But this kid legitimately was like, that's because I asked the lady where she was from, and she goes, Harlem. He goes, that's where Batman's from. I'm like, who told you that? And so it just went around to the comics, and everybody started pitching in there like, hey man, take this, and hey, take this. Sitting down and writing by myself, I don't like to do because I have too many distractions. So I like to sit with other comics and just go over ideas that I came up with. That's my personal style. Like I like to have instant feedback. I don't want to, meet up later and go, hey, so let me run these past you real quick. Like if I can do that sitting here with you or with Paul, with Mark, or other guys here in town, if I can do that sitting there with them and we can workshop bits back and forth, I like that style a lot better.
Let me ask you a question. I've heard Jason James say, Dallas comedy is probably the best comedy in the U.S. because everybody's doing comedy. Like you're not in L.A. and you're screenwriting and then you're doing comedy.
Sure.
Do you feel the same way?
Absolutely. I'll tell you a funny story about that. I was in San Francisco a couple years ago, and I walked in, and I guess it was a San Francisco comedy club, and I guess they had their little house, their house favorite. It was a short little Asian lady, and she came up to me and she goes, "So you're the headliner?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "From Dallas?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, because Dallas is known for its comedy." And I just looked at her. I was like, I'll make you a bet right now if you're willing to take it. I said, "You take your 5 best comics from this club. I'll take my 5 best comics from that club, from Dallas. And we'll put them on a show, and we'll see who wins audience votes. If you guys win, I'll pay you $2,000 out of my own pocket. If we win, reimburse airfare and hotel." And she wouldn't take it. She goes, "You're that strong about it?" I was like, "Absolutely." And it's interesting. I mean, it's amazing to think, like, what Boston was the big one.
Yeah.
Like, Boston, everybody came out of Boston. And if you look at Dallas, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next 5 to 10 years because you have Paul Varghese, you have Mark Agee, you have Aaron Arianport, you have all these great, Jason's already out in LA, and you have all these great comics in one city that are working, that are constantly out, constantly on the road, constantly. Paul's on Showtime in October.
Yeah.
He was on Last Comic Standing, live at Gotham. I mean, everybody's got their own market. I just was over in London and Ireland. So everybody's really doing something. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens 5 to 7 years from now when everybody's like, so how do you guys know each other? Oh, we all came out of Dallas. And I think Dallas will end up being, and this is a very ballsy statement to make, but I think Dallas is what's going to end up being the new Boston. And if you've seen this, how many great comics are being cultivated constantly in the city. Like, you've got everybody's. Brad LaCour is one of the funniest kids I know, and he's been in the scene for a year and a half or 2 years, something like that. So, I mean, you got these great comics just constantly coming up, and I think it's going to be the next Boston.
Wow. This is a question I've been wanting to ask you for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that differentiates between you and Paul?
Our styles are completely different. I like audience participation. Like, I like to talk to the crowd, and if you've seen my sets and where I do a lot of crowd work, and I like to talk to the crowd to set up a joke, do the joke, talk to the crowd, set up a joke, and just kind of follow that format. The style is completely different. Our way of writing is completely different, and it's like you and I can be on the road together, and I've been on the road with Paul many, many times, and you and I can be on the road together, and you'll come up with an idea that I can give you a punchline or a tag for that I could never use because it's not my style of doing stand-up. So even though you both say similar backgrounds, similar amount of time doing stand-up, he's a year ahead of me, your personality is where it comes through. Like, I love to talk to the crowd. I love to get to know the people that are in the audience. For me, personally, it's, well, if you pay $25 to come see a show, you can leave. If it's just, material and no crowd interaction and just standing up there talking, you can leave and you won't remember the show in 4 months. Or I can talk to your husband or your wife or your daughter or your niece or your nephew, and you may not remember my name specifically, but you can go, "Hey, remember that one time that comic said this about you?" I like that. I mean, it's a personal satisfaction. So, I mean, completely different styles. I have some really weird observational humor. Like, I talk about the weird signs that what your personality is, and my personality is far more audience participation.